Kevin Jackson here for Collect Media. We're joined today by famed rock and roll photographer Danny Clinch. Danny, thanks for joining us here at Collect. We're here today to talk a little bit about Pearl Jam, which is heading out on the road for their Dark Matter tour, which began in early May in Vancouver and continues throughout 2024. We wanted to talk to Danny a little bit about his history of photography with the band, shooting the band, and capturing images throughout their career. So, Danny, I guess I'd just start by saying, can you tell us a little bit about how your history with Pearl Jam began, which I think goes way back pretty close to the beginning?
Yeah, it was serendipitous that I had this one opportunity that I wouldn't have had otherwise, and I wouldn't have ended up having these early photos. But I went to Lollapalooza at Waterloo Village with my friend Tim Donnelly, who was working at the time for the Surfrider Foundation.
Mhm.
And he had an opportunity to interview Ed because he was obviously involved in surfing and the Surfrider Foundation. So we agreed to be interviewed. And so he was like, man, you should come along, like bring your camera and we'll just go hang out and talk, do this interview. And I said, okay, that's cool. So we showed up, and I recall that they weren't letting anybody backstage. We thought we'd go backstage and hang with him in his room or whatever. And this was 10 had just been released. Um, and they wouldn't let us back. So Ed, and I don't even know why he didn't, maybe it was because of where we were at the time, but he didn't use the gate. He climbed over the fence um to meet Tim and I, and we just wandered over by some trailers, maybe they were merch trailers or something. And we sat down and started to talk, and he was uh very humble and very relaxed, and his voice is so rich and interesting, and we were like, wow, this is the guy who's singing those songs. This is incredible. And he was really kind to us. They talked about Surfrider, and he gave a great interview. And afterwards I just said, do you mind if I grab a couple of photographs of you? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I basically was like, yeah, don't, well, at one point I was just, yeah, just don't move from where you are. This looks great. And I had an old Rolleiflex, which is like a twin lens camera that you look down into. And that was my medium format camera at the time for you photo geeks. And I, grabbed some nice portraits of him, and it just seemed like such a great timing to capture someone at the beginning of their career, and who had just made such a great record and had an interesting story. And then we continued. I shot a couple other photos of him, one which ended up being on the cover of Spin magazine a little bit later on. And and then we went to the show. Tim and I went to, their set at Lollapalooza, and we we were just in the middle of kind of the mosh pit in a way, and getting knocked around, and all the energy was incredible. And then next thing you know, Ed's climbing up on the scaffolding there, and we're like, is this the same guy that we were just sitting and like chilling out with? Like, this guy's an animal. And the whole band was just tearing it up. And as I've gotten to know the band, and I've gotten to know Ed, I started to think to myself, he he came up on our side on purpose, and he saw us. I'm sure he did, because he's just so observant and uh and creative. And I thought he probably knew we were there, because he literally jumped on top of us basically.
Uh,
And I had the batteries. What I recall also was the batteries in my motor drive camera had crapped out. So I basically wasn't like when he jumped, I could just go boom, 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 boom. I just basically had to focus, and I had one shot at
wow.
and it's there. The shot's really cool. I have it's one of my favorites and one of my first. And I was stoked to like capture that sort of energy that he was putting out at that time in his career.
I
Um
I heard an interview with Jeff lately, who said when Ed would start the acrobatics and the climbing and all that, it was so nerve wracking he couldn't even watch. So, as the person capturing those images, were you worried for him when you saw him heading up like that?
well, when he jumped, I was. I figured, well, hopefully people are going to catch him. I mean, I recently surfaced was that moment of him swinging from the microphone cord. Um, I happened to be out on the road somewhere where I was with Ed and his daughter, and I was like, "Have you seen this?" You know, to Oli, and she was like, I have not seen this. This is insane." And I got nervous just watching it and knowing that he's still around, like that he was hanging from that mic cord. We're like, what is going on here? But yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I could see if I was Jeff, I'd be turning my back. I'm like, I don't need to see this. I'm just going to keep playing and hope for the best.
so how is it different, Danny, when you're shooting Pearl Jam now, like 3 decades later, as opposed to maybe shooting them in the early '90s?
Well, I have better access.
I bet.
um,
Yeah.
but no, they still just, it's so cool to see. Um, they just like still seem to be great friends and really respect each other, and they go out there with like an intensity that's like, man, like they're going out there, and beforehand they're all just like appear to be, and I've got photos of it, and they've been out there in the world. I specifically think about like maybe it was Fenway, like 2016 or something like that, or 2018. And just like the moment before they hit the stage, you can just see the intensity, and they're not just like, oh, here we go again. They're like ready to bring it. And as every fan knows, like Ed is paying attention to what's going on socially in the world. He's paying
Mhm,
attention to where he is physically in the world at that moment. I did a film called Imagining Corniche,
mhm,
and in the film you can see that he's studying with a translator, like how to pronounce what he wants to say to the crowd. I mean, this is a band that just really cares about their audience and really cares about the music that they're putting out in the world.
mhm. I've read that you said, having a connection with the subject you're shooting is what's important in your work. How is your obviously you have a great connection with Pearl Jam and it's been built over that time, but how do you describe that and how have you seen that evolve?
Well, it is relationships, as with any business, any friendship, any marriage, whatever it might be. A band, I play in a band, a Tangiers blues band, which I love doing, and I can relate to just the dynamics that go on, between people. But I think it's like showing people respect. And if they said to me at some point, yeah, go wherever you want, just don't get in the way. And so, had I first time out, been sort of running around and getting in the way on the stage, I'm sure my access would have been slowly or quickly just dissolved. But um, because I do my best to respect, you know, everyone in any instant, not only with Pearl Jam but with other bands, um, they trust you. In regard to shooting a live show or being backstage, knowing when not to talk to people and distract them, knowing when the tour manager is trying to rally his band. And even I've had experiences with Pearl Jam or other bands where someone's talking to me in the band, and I could see the tour manager being like, we're supposed to be walking to the stage, and then I have to politely just go like walk away from a conversation. uh you know and then everybody understands that. But it's about relationships and doing, I think, a portrait session. I did all the photographs for publicity for the new record.
Mhm,
um it was really exciting. I had a conversation with Jeff and beforehand, and we talked about what they were doing and what they're going to do for the stage, what lighting and what video screens they were going to do, and what the vibe was. And they sent me the record and the packaging and all that stuff. And as you can see, I took that inspiration into doing the portraits for this round of publicity, and it matches what they're doing. And it's like it's so cool to collaborate. And when the band showed up for that photo shoot, I was prepared. I made sure that I was ready. We spent the day ahead of time pre-lighting everything and getting everything sorted out, so I didn't
mhm,
waste anyone's time. And I think they appreciate that. And because we know each other so well, there's not a uncomfortable or even just a, hey, nice to meet you. Let me tell you this story about how I listened to your band back then,
Yeah, sure.
type thing. So we just get right to it, and they're just like, all right, Danny, what do you want us to do? And then that's how you get like, I just try to keep my sets very relaxed and collaborative, and I crank up some James Brown radio or the Clash or something, and I'm right in the pocket.
That's great. I saw you had the transparent Clinch gallery over in, I believe, over in London for the mark of the start of Dark Matter and all the images there that kind of had that feeling. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah. Tim Bierman, who works with the band, and runs the 10 Club and does probably a million other things for them, hit me up and told me about this outernet opportunity that they had, where it's a big video installation in the middle of London, and there's a like a video screens. You basically are walking through a tunnel of video, moving image, still image, etc. And he said, why don't we grab a bunch of your photos from the history you have with the band, and we'll put them up there, and we'll also put some of the recent stuff up. And we did a couple of sort of video gifs and things that we cut together. My daughter Nina actually cut them together, and we sent them all that content, and it was incredible. The photos we saw from it was like really wild, and they were kind enough to give us at the gallery, the transparent Clinch gallery, Instagram info was up there. My Danny Bones info was up there, and it was we got a lot of love from that. A lot of people saw it, and a lot of people were commenting and enjoyed seeing this. The sort of breadth of work that I have with the band.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely the archivist who feels like, as longtime fans feel like they've gone on a journey with your photographs of the band. Danny, do you have any idea how many times you've shot them? How many shows? How many times?
No, I don't.
Yeah, yeah,
It's hundreds for sure.
yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
And I've made, a couple of films and short films and music videos. I love the Imagine in Corniche, being
Mhm.
invited um to Italy and follow them on the tour and film, uh, you know, and create a film out of that experience was incredible. I feel like that's when I really started to get to know the band. Like it was really started to click, and we were like, yeah, we put a great crew together, and it was just really incredible. And then when they wanted to film the two nights at Wrigley in 2016, they asked me to film it, and that was really exciting. It's such a huge venue and such an interesting opportunity. And then we of course said, hey, if the Cubs go on a run here, we might have to include this in our story. And sure enough, they did. They ran on the run and took it, and it was pretty wild, as collectors, that may be listening, just baseball fans. I think of baseball cards and all sorts of other collectibles. It was wild. I ended up going to game 7 rather, in Cleveland,
Hmm.
and I was filming. It was a very guerrilla style crew at that point, where I had said to Ed, I said, I'm going to come find you if the Cubs go on a run, and he's like, yeah, if you can find me, I'm going to be running around, and I was like, oh, I'll take that challenge. I'll find you. So I ended up, going to Wrigley with him and going to Murphy's Bleachers and the great bars and stuff around town, and following him everywhere. And like I said, I end up at game 7, and we were with Theo Epstein, and we went down to the seats, and he said, listen, Theo's wife's going to stay up with their son for a little bit. And, but if you want to walk down with us, you could sit with us for a little while. I'm like, okay. And here I am, game 7, like walking down. I'm not sure where we're sitting. We're walking. We keep getting closer and closer. Next thing I know, I'm literally sitting behind the catcher, like front row, first
Wow.
seat. I mean, Bill Murray was sitting behind me. Okay. That's what was going on. And, and so, and of course, then I could feel my phone blowing up. Like, are you sitting behind at game 7? I'm like, yeah, I am. And,
You had that going for you, which is nice, right?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. So, and then I just, hung out as long as I felt comfortable. and filmed what was going on, and of course we all know what happened. But the film is great because I feel like it's like every rock star wants to be like a pro athlete, and every pro
Mhm.
athlete wants to be a rock star. It seems. And the band, Pearl Jam, really, they are sports fans, like especially Ed and Jeff.
Yeah,
Um, Mike's always going out and playing the Star Spangled Banner and national
mhm,
anthem or whatever, and at Seattle games, whether it's soccer or football or
sure.
baseball. But it was pretty wild. And I think anybody, especially sports fans, it's a great film because it really incorporates the band playing at Wrigley, called "Let's Play Two," which was
Mhm.
a phrase that was coined by Ernie Banks. It's a great day for baseball. Let's play two, and it really is a really sweet moment of this band playing, and we just like we line it up and we play off of the Cubs, just like trying to win this championship, and the way it ended was exactly how we had hoped.
So, how does your mindset change? I know you directed the Mind Your Manners video, I believe. You
Mhm.
mentioned Imagine, you mentioned Let's Play Two. How
Yeah,
does your mindset
the
change
whole
from when
short
you're,
film. Yeah.
yeah, from when you're photographing Pearl Jam to maybe when you're thinking about directing a short film or a music video?
I think in the end, it's all storytelling,
Mhm.
and I believe it's probably just like, I think in terms of crew and the difficulty of making a film, and having a crew and directing a crew and capturing and editing and all that stuff is very, very difficult and very time consuming. It's a enjoyable process for sure, because it's teamwork, and but storytelling in a photograph is oftentimes you're telling it in one image,
Mhm.
and that's not as easy.
Yeah.
In my opinion, with moving image, you're telling the story. You can have sound bites. You can follow someone, along and tell that story. With a photograph, it's like, bam, what's the story there? You know,
Mhm.
and if you look at my photograph from Let's Play 2 that I took of Eddie Vedder jumping over the monitor with the whole of Wrigley Field underneath him,
Spectacular.
him
Yeah.
sailing through the sky, that's a great example of a big story caught in one moment.
Mhm. Well, you've sort of answered this, I think, in your last couple answers, Danny. But I'm curious, what's your favorite venue or spot that you shot the band? I mean, you've shot them all over the world. Hard to beat Italy, maybe hard to beat a sold out crowd at Wrigley. But when
Mm,
you think about just the backdrops you've had to shoot this band, where are
yeah.
your favorite spots you've had them?
Uh, you know, man, there really are so many that come to my mind. I mean, Wrigley, just because of the way that the band is aligned with Wrigley, I feel like
Hmm.
is really epic. Um, I've photographed them on the
You should
beach.
get some thunder and lightning in the background too, which is always nice in Wrigley.
Oh
You get
yeah,
that you get that
yeah,
lightning shot.
yeah, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there in 2013 when they had that crazy rainstorm that pushed the show back. Um, but I also got to photograph them on the beach in Asbury Park at See Here Now, which is the music festival of which I am a partner.
Hmm.
And to get the band to come out, they hadn't played in 3 years due to the pandemic. It was a very special moment. They hadn't played um, in Asbury Park, which was really, really crazy. Although Mike came out, Mike McCready came out a couple years two before and did his art. He had like an art and music thing going on with Kate Neckel, and it was real cool. He would be playing music, she would be painting, he would be photographing, and at See Here Now we do an art gallery, pop up gallery for Transparent Clinch Gallery, and we they came in, and Mike played music there, and then Tangier's Blues Band does the late night show at the Stone Pony on the Saturday night, and Mike came out and sat in with the band, and of course, to have Mike McCready in your blues band is like pretty rocking.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
had such a great time. Um, and then so what was kind of cool was especially during the sound check, it was a very moody afternoon when the band was sound checking for See Here Now. And Ed was wearing a Bruce Springsteen River Tour T-shirt under his jean shirt, and that felt really special to me because we knew what was coming. And my partners and I, Tim Donnelly, H.M. Woolman, and Tim Sweetwood, like we had just dreamed of putting Pearl Jam on the beach in Asbury. So that was real cool. The other interesting spots was Hyde Park in London was incredible. The sunsets just all over the audience. I like my favorite spot is like hiding behind, say, Matt Cameron or Jeff's uh Jeff's amplifier and like popping up and grabbing a photo and then getting down, because you can see when you're photographing in that situation, you're getting not only the band but you're getting the fans and whatever the venue is at the time. It's sort of like a great viewpoint to capture the whole picture. Again, a story in one photo, let's say. But yeah, that was, and we were in Berlin, and that was a wild venue too. It was like a all concrete, crazy, and then like the seats go like straight up, which was great because then your whole sort of wallpaper, we call it, behind the band was just fans. No
Mhm.
sky, nothing. It's just fans. Um, but you did mention Verona, and in Imagining Cornice, we went to
Mhm.
Verona, and one of my favorite moments at that point was we we went to um, the sound check, and I said, everything was wrapping up, and it seemed casual. I said to Ed, hey, you want to walk up to the crest of this venue and like maybe just do a little filming and take some photos or whatever. And he's like, yeah, sure. And Mike was like, where are you guys going? And we said, oh, we're going to go up to the top and sit. Um, and so he was like, I'll come along. He grabbed his guitar and we all walked up and we're just sitting up on the top and looking down at the fans who are running in the streets. And it was just like a really great moment. And they played a song up there and we filmed it. It's just those kind of things, like, as a fan, because I'm a fan, like I'm a music fan, I'm a Pearl Jam fan. Uh, like I know what people want to see
Mhm.
because I'm one of them, you know, and
Yeah.
I just happen to be like right in the middle of it, which is I'm very grateful for. But it's those things like whether someone's writing a set list or the band's discussing what they're going to do, or they come off the stage and they've got their set list and all of a sudden they're going back and forth and they're changing it in real time, and they're like chugging down some water, and Mike's eating a banana and like stretching out, and Jeff's doing like jumping jacks, and Stone's doing his thing. Um I know the things that fans want to see in that regard. And
I'm
um
so happy you told the backstory of the photo in Italy because that's one of my favorites of yours, and I've always kind of wondered how that came about, how organic
yeah,
that was.
yeah.
You have you mentioned access and trust, and I mean I think you live the dream of every Pearl Jam fan, just to kind of wander the stage. Is there anywhere you can't go, and do you often kind of pinch yourself of like how much free range you do have with the band?
Well, you know I I I'm not going to go. I don't cross in front of anybody.
Sure,
I
sure.
don't cross in front of Mike or stand in between the two of them. I'm always like I said, I'm behind the amplifiers, trying to be invisible.
Mhm.
Uh and then I'll pop out and then I'll try to get back in. But I often will ask the band like, "Hey, do you mind if at the end of the show you want to turn around and I'll get on the drum riser and we'll like get that shot?" Like that's an epic shot, and
Mhm.
they're always pretty cool with that as long as they're having a good show and they're feeling, which is they've never said no really. But sometimes I forget to ask and then I'm like, "Come on, you remember, right?" And then I just get them from the back or whatever. Um, but yeah, I just feel like the popping up moment is really cool. I have a also as a collector, to your collectors, I have a t-shirt company called Clinch Collections. So I have these t-shirts that I make and I put a simple photograph on the cover.
Mhm.
It's a little wrinkled because I pulled it out of a bag. It's a Springsteen shirt.
Mhm.
And it's like really nicely made. It's got a sewn in tag in the back with my mission statement there. And then people have been collecting these tags because they have a little story about each photograph that's on the shirt. Like the
Amazing.
Springsteen one would talk about that, and like the Jeff and Ed one that I have is talks about being at Wrigley Field, uh, and uh, and so people are collecting those tags and collecting the shirts because they're super cool. I mean, I
Uh-huh.
really love it. This might be a bad example because it's wrinkled,
Yeah.
but, you know.
Danny,
But
what do you personally collect? Are you a collector?
I am.
Uh,
I collect backstage passes and
oh,
laminates.
okay. I bet you have
And
quite the collection. Yeah.
dude, I have probably one of the better collections. You know, and I also collect guitar picks,
Uh,
and
oh,
I have a lot of guitar picks. I
I
mean,
bet.
yeah, from you know, just I yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm not so organized with it. Like I have actually my laminates are in a folder,
Uh,
and I've been photographing in music for 30 years, 35 years. So I have some crazy laminates and photo passes. I remember one time I got a photo pass from Metallica, and it took up my whole shirt. It was like sticky passes, but it
uh,
was huge. It was literally 8 by 10.
wow.
They're like, here, I think they're just showing their sense of humor. Like, here is the photographer, you wear this. And he had to
Uh,
put this thing on. It was like I ended up saving mine, so it still was sticking and stuff. But
so I knew Ed was a collector, but I don't think I knew to what extreme until he just did the warehouse tour with the Ringer, where he was showing the baseball helmets he had, the game used jerseys, the 8 by 10s he got from Johnny.
oh yeah.
I imagine when you're with him that collector vibe and that baseball maniac vibe comes out from Ed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been there. I've taken a couple of swings in the batting cage.
Uh-huh.
I've been looking through that he's got an 8 by 10 of every Cubs player,
It's crazy.
every single one.
Uh,
And he's got a lot of he collects a lot. Baseball, certainly rock and roll. And funny, this is a great story. So I had this photograph of Johnny Ramone,
mhm.
and I was showing it to Ed. I might have gifted it to him because I knew they were friends, and he was. I think I actually gave him this photo of Johnny Ramone. I was like, "Here, I wanted you to have this. I know you guys were friends and all that." And he goes, "Oh yeah, you see that leather jacket he's wearing?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, I have that. I have that leather jacket." I was like, "You have a Ramones leather jacket?"
Yeah.
He was like, "Well, yeah, when he passed, his wife auctioned a lot of stuff off, and he made sure that he was the one who scored the jacket. I think that's how it went anyway. But oh yeah, man, his place is like that is yeah, it's a museum for sure.
One of the hottest trends in collecting right now is type one photography, and I don't know how aware of that you are, but an
What's type
original
one? What does type one mean?
it's an original photograph from negative that is developed within a certain amount of time period from when it's taken, and and rock and roll versions and early 1950 Mickey Mantle photo, things like that. Things going back to Ty Cobb early in the century. So
Mhm.
I wasn't sure if you were aware of that. I can tell you that your negative collection is probably worth through the stratosphere if you ever if you ever want to go that route.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah. No, that's interesting. That's an interesting story.
yeah.
Um, I'll tell you a funny story, which I meant to say, and it skipped my mind when you were saying, where do you get the stand,
Mhm.
for the show, for the Pearl Jam show?
Sure.
Where do you go? And when Ed did his solo record, and he had the Earthlings band,
Hmm.
we before one of the shows, he was like, "Hey, Danny, come here. I got an idea. Come through at sound check." And I was like, "All right." So, so he says, and now we don't tell anybody, don't tell the band, nobody. He and I are talking
Uh,
about this, and his security guy, um, Pete, and he's like, "Here's what we're gonna do, like at the end of this song." Oh, because I've also sat in with the band and play harmonica, so I play
yeah,
harmonica.
I was going to ask you about that. I saw you
Okay,
playing Ohana. How that changes
yeah,
your perspective of actually being the musician out there with them, and I know you are a musician yourself, so
yeah.
you probably have great perspective on that.
Oh yeah. So this particular record, they had the Stevie Wonder plays harmonica
Mhm.
on one of the songs, and uh, he he had invited me to play on it in the set, and he said, here instead, here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna come out at the end of this particular song. I don't remember what song it was. Um, and you're just gonna keep getting closer to me. You're gonna be photographing on the edge of the stage, and then you're gonna just keep just getting closer and closer, and like at the end, you're just gonna be like uncomfortably close to me, like taking photos, right? And I was like, okay. And so anyway, this so the time happens, the song comes, I start to go out. Pete, who's his security guy, is just like, I made sure I reminded him not to take me out, you know. I was like, Pete, remember, I'm going out there, okay? He's like, yeah,
Sure.
yeah, yeah. So I go out, I get really close, and then he finishes the song, and then he just like he stops and he looks at me, he's like, Danny, what the like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm trying to get the shot, you know? And he's like, well, I've known you for 30 years. Have I ever asked you to come out here and like get up in my face? Like, this is ridiculous. And he's like, I'm telling you, the only, people allowed out here are the musicians. And I like pulled my harmonica out of my pocket. I'm like, I'm a musician. And he's like, you call that an instrument? And he's like, we don't have any harmonica on this record. And then Andrew Watt, who produced their new record, was in the band, and he's like, Ed, we do have a song on that has harmonica on the record. And Ed looked at me, he was like, oh, and he's like, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it was like rocked into the song.
Oh, fantastic.
We tore it up. Yeah, it was really fun.
Uh-huh.
Nobody knew. The band didn't know what was going on. My wife was in the in the audience. She was like, what the hell is going on? Did Danny just really lose his mind or what?
So, Danny, where does Pearl Jam rank on who you've shot the most? I know you've shot a ton of Springsteen. I know you obviously shot a ton of early hip hop artists. Like the number of times have you do you have any idea where they rank on who you've shot the most and where they are on that list?
Um, I would say they are very close, yeah, to the top.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would say,
With Bruce, is it Pearl Jam
yeah,
and Bruce? Yeah.
yeah, it's Bruce, Pearl Jam. I've done a lot of Foo Fighters,
Hmm.
a lot of Fish, a lot of Dave Matthews Band,
Wow.
um, a
You've seen
lot
some
of My
tremendous
Morning
shows.
Jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah, My
Are
Morning
you?
Jacket is, I don't know if anybody's, been seeing that band lately, but they're on fire. That's
Yeah,
a
they are.
great live band. Yeah.
How many times? What are your dark matter tour plans? How many times are you gonna be out?
I haven't decided exactly. I do know they're coming through Philly and New York City, and we
Mhm.
have See Here Now in September.
Yep.
But their early September, we'll find them in New York and in Philly. So I most likely will be going to those shows. I potentially am going to Bottle Rock. I would love to see them in Europe. I would like to see Springsteen in Europe. Um, but there is only so many days in a year.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I to wrap up, I got a couple more things for you. I know you said music is medicine, and
Yeah.
when you see, sometimes you feel when you see Pearl Jam, you get kind of re-energized and reinvigorated. I know I do, and there's just such a connection that they have with the crowd, and there's such a great live band. And I feel the highest compliment I could pay you is you actually capture that in still photography, which is, do you feel that vibe, that same live vibe when you're shooting the band? I'm sure you do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I do. I feel like, I'm participating in a way. Like I have my own instrument, which is my camera.
Hmm.
And I feel like, you get swept up in the energy and in the moment and stuff like that. And I think how fortunate am I that I get to do what I love, with the passion that I have for the music and the idea that, I think about it sometimes and I catch myself like I'm in the pit and I'm like singing and like dancing a little dance, like a little pep in my step. I'm like kind of like feel like and then sometimes I'm like, ooh, do I, you know, it- or people think that I'm not doing my job or, that sort of thing. And it's just a wonderful way to make your art and make your living. And, you know, music is important to people, it's like, you know, we did a trip. My family and I went out like to the when I said we went to Barcelona, we went to Berlin, and we were traveling from Barcelona to Berlin, and we were in the airport, and everybody in the airport was traveling from Barcelona to Berlin. So it was
Mhm.
all Pearl Jam family.
Yep.
It was all the fans, and everybody had poster tubes in their
Yep.
hand,
Poster tubes on their back
and,
and the
you know,
concert shirts. You just recognize
yeah.
them as they
I
come
mean,
through.
everybody like I saw you, and though you were on the rail, I saw
Yeah.
you. I have a
Yeah.
photo of you on the rail. Um, and this means so much to people. And when
Mhm.
when you realize life is short, and you realize that music is going to get you through the hard times, and it's going to help you celebrate the great times. You hear a song and you think of different people and different moments in your life. I mean, it's medicine. It's medicine for people, whether you're listening to Pearl Jam or classical music or whatever. It's just like something that is, I think, is so important. And people have met and gotten married in line at a Pearl Jam show. uh,
Mhm.
I know the people. um, and so yeah, I really feel like it is. I think it's so important to people's lives. And when I became a photographer, like I could have went on so many different directions and really concentrated on whether it was fashion or like celebrity photography or
Mhm.
music, and I just fell in with music because musicians are my people, you know.
Mhm.
And I just fell into it, and I really never. I have done fashion, and I have done celebrities. I've done sports, um, and photographed Lionel Messi and you know uh, quite a few other celebrities. But I just really the music is where it's at for me.
I know when we started to come out of the pandemic and live shows started to return. The Pearl Jam played "See Here Now," and then they came out and I went when they played Ohana. It's just to feel that connection back was just was just really amazing, and the what it means to fans. I think you spoke really well about that. So Dan, the last question I have to ask you is probably the toughest one. You've alluded to it a little bit with Verona, with Wrigley. If you had to pick some of your favorite shots, and I don't know if when you curated the exhibit for London with your daughter, if you were thinking about that, but your favorite Pearl Jam shots through the years, can you give me a
Mm,
few that stick out as we try to
yeah.
pick the Clinch favorites of Clinch?
Well, you have to come to Transparent Gallery to see them.
Okay.
Um, it's certainly the Ed jumping over the
Mhm,
monitor at Wrigley. I think even the Jeff and Ed one at Wrigley also, which is
mhm,
on the Clinch Collections T-shirt.
mhm,
I love the photo of Mike McCready that I have. That is um, he's right at the end playing the Star Spangled Banner. I think at the last show at the Spectrum on Halloween,
mhm,
October
mhm.
31st. His arms up in the air, all the confetti is raining down on him.
Yeah.
I think that's a real favorite of mine. Um, I also love the one that is from the drum riser at Madison Square Garden where the whole band is lined up, and it's just from the back, but you just feel this just the love. They
Mhm.
in fact turned that one into a poster,
Yep.
which I love. And I'll tell you, I love the new portraits from this session for Dark Matter, like the one
Mhm.
with all the energy and the lights and that little motion in there. I mean, I think it's you know I think it's some of my best work with them, which is really cool. And in fact, when they were leaving, Jeff Ament came up to me and he was like, "Man, that might be the best shoot we've ever done." And for us to
Wow.
be this far along and to feel like we just spent the day making art together is like really cool. And I was like, "Man, I appreciate that." Um, so that's a favorite of mine. Also, there's a couple of favorites of mine, like when the band played on the rooftop of Murphy's Bleachers
Mhm.
across from Wrigley. There's a couple in there that are really, really cool too. And it's interesting because sometimes you see the photo that's like a favorite of yours, and like for some reason it doesn't come out of the archive right away. And then you just sort of discover it down the road, and you're just like, you know what? I've always wanted to print this one. Let's print it and see what it is. Um,
That's
and that,
tremendous.
yeah, yeah. And I think of a couple others too. There's a really crazy shot that I took in Oahu. The band was doing think they did a show with Kings of Leon, and then they did like a private event fundraiser for like Surfrider or a foundation in Honolulu, and Ed's just jumping up in the air, and the band's just rocking out below him, and that's kind of like a sneaky one that's not out in the archive, for people to see usually. So, um,
Well,
yeah,
as a lifelong Pearl Jam fan, and speaking for people that have better 10 club numbers even than I do, I just want to thank you for joining us today, Danny. But more importantly, for capturing the history and the connection that this band has with its
yeah,
fans through the
yeah,
years. It's really been a conduit for those of us in the Pearl Jam community to
yeah.
connect through your photographs. So thank you so much.
Cool. Well, I appreciate it, and I think that you were talking about photography, and you were talking about the people collecting. I've had people come to me. I've recently had both Pearl Jam and Bruce Springsteen fans and Bob Dylan actually, come to think of it,
Mhm.
who've come to me and said, I've got this is this I have a wall, an empty wall here in my home or in my recording studio or in my whatever. And I would like to create a collection of images of Bruce Springsteen, let's say, and
Mhm.
they've actually even had me select the images and say, I want you to tell a story for me in like
Wow.
10 or 12 photos, and
Mhm.
I'm like, this one should be 8 by 10, this one should be really big, this is going to be the focal point, and then this is just going to be like his hand on the neck of the guitar, and this is going to be a wide shot, this will be the whole band. So it's cool to see people collecting photography, and that when I started photographing, I never thought I would have a gallery, and I never thought that a part of my legacy would be able to offer fine art prints to collectors. um, and so it's really interesting for me as well, and I appreciate it. If anybody uh, it comes through Asbury Park or New York City. We're just an hour south in Asbury Park, and it's a really great seaside town. It's very
Mhm.
eclectic, lots of great music venues, and people come from all over the world to see the gallery. Certainly, Pearl Jam fans and Springsteen fans, Fish, etc. Foo Fighters, all that are just drop in because they know I got the goods.
So Danny, one more time before we go,
Yeah.
let fans out there know where they can buy the t-shirts, where they can buy the prints, the URL for your website. Is it
Sure. Yeah.
clinch.com, clinchphotos.com? What is it?
Yeah. So the gallery is transparentclinchgallery.com,
Hmm.
and um uh, the Instagram is Transparent Clinch Gallery.
Uh-huh.
Um, my Instagram is Danny Bones
Danny
64,
Bones. Yeah.
which is my nickname when I was a kid. The Clinch Collections t-shirts are Clinch Collections, clinchcollections.com and at Clinch Collections. And we have literally, Springsteen, Eddie and Jeff. We have Jack Johnson. We have Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Metallica. It's really cool. We're just dropping a Joan Jett shirt as well, and those are collectible shirts. And um, and I'm just Danny at Danny. I'm just DannyClinch.com for my general website.
Danny, thanks
Yeah,
so much for joining us at Collect.
yeah, man.
Really appreciate all your time. Love the stories, and hope to catch you out on the Dark Matter tour here.
Oh yeah, man.
Sometime
If
later
you
this
see me,
fall.
flag me down. I'll do the same.